Welcome, everyone. It is so fantastic to see you. Year number 2 for those of you who are repeats. And without masks this time, which makes all the difference. I can actually see you, see your beautiful smiling faces. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to Ecosystems 2030. My name is Nikki Eberhardt. I'm going to be your MC for both today and tomorrow. As you know, we are thrilled to be here with you. Why? Because emerging technologies are going to be the driving force to not only tackle most of our intractable global challenges over the next decade, but it becomes increasingly important that we tackle these issues in a very collaborative way, working across sectors, across industries, to collectively come together and change the game. We have an opportunity over the next 2 days to share in ideas, to build solutions together. And in addition to that, to really drive the next level of innovation, because you are industry experts. You are thought leaders in this space, your corporate CEOs, your startup founders, your heads of government entities, et cetera, et cetera. We need you in this space, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you. So, that said, we're next going to invite to the stage the executive chairman of Ecosystems 2030, the brains behind all of this, the visionary, and, let's be honest, the connector, who knows most of us from different avenues, Mr. Dr. Omar Hatamleh. Omar.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful city of Coruña. It's really a pleasure, to be in this place here. We've been exploring different places to go through this event, and eventually we found the perfect place to have such an event. We found the perfect ecosystem. So the concept came about this event here is we know that we have a lot of emerging technologies. But what we don't know is what ecosystems will be emerging from these technologies. What new jobs will be created? What jobs will be disrupted? How can we position ourselves to remain relevant and not be disrupted by some new innovation coming from the side? When we talk about the future, it's becoming much more challenging because if you go back thousands of years ago and you say, what's going to happen in the next 50 years, the next 100 years, would have been very simple. Today, it's very difficult even to predict what's happening in the next 10 years. In some studies, actually, they tell you almost 60% of the jobs don't even exist yet. So how do you prepare people? How do we prepare ourselves for jobs that don't even exist today? That's a big challenge, I think, that we are working with here. So let's talk about the robotics area. Hopefully the slides will come in. So we talked about how much industrial revolution has been impacting jobs and how much it's creating jobs, how much it's displacing jobs. And now, robots actually getting much more pervasive, much more advanced, much more dexterous. We even anticipate almost 50 million jobs will be displaced from the market just by the impact of robotics. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, for the first time in history, we're going to be competing with intellect. We're not only competing with manual labor, we're competing with intellectual capability. And that by itself, it opens up a whole door of possibilities and challenges that we need to deal with. We're talking about some stuff will be impacting medicine, will be impacting engineers, will be impacting lawyers, accountants. How do we start involving all these technologies to make sure we go there for the right place? So artificial intelligence right now, people have a lot of expectations. They see where we're at, and they build an opinion about where we're going to be going. And the way we look at it is like we're looking at a baby and judging this baby, what's going to happen moving forward. This baby is going to grow, has become capable of being able to do many more things, but it's going to be a phase. We're still at the narrow artificial intelligence, but we're going to go through the next phases and eventually reaching super artificial intelligence in 25 years. That is when things start getting interesting, and that's when we need to be keeping a lookout. Another thing besides technology is ethics. So ethics is the fundamental part of everything we're trying to do here. Without having a fair, transparent, accountable, safe and secure, preserving our rights, preserving our everything that we're doing, I think the technology is going to be challenging to be implemented. So it's really essential that we have an ethical framework. But also there is a balance. We cannot put so much regulations and policies and then stifle innovation. So it has to be a nice balance between allowing people to be innovative and do what they're doing, but then having the proper framework, proper regulations to make sure everything is working good as well. Another thing we need to keep thinking about is a new evolution of humans, which is going to be hybrid humans. So we're going to be starting to embed in us more electronics, more components, more technologies. And that is eventually, even genetics, we're talking about having modified genetics, modified humans with certain genetics to be able to sustain more things with different capacity. So would that create new class of citizens? I mean, we already have a lot of segmented people, segmented ideas, segmented ideologies. But would we create a new segment of humans that potentially could be integrated in society? What is going to be the reactions to humans to that? All that stuff we need to start to think about it as well from today. Even the most basic things, if we look at robotics, the Asimov laws that tells you a robot might not injure a human, all these basic laws have to be also adapted. So imagine if you're having a surgeon that's a robot, and the surgeon has to do an incision on a human. Well, that by default, it's harming the human. So even the most fundamental laws and simple ideas that we've been thinking about, they need to be modified. They need to evolve with this fast technological evolution that we're trying to see here. So we have now a lot of emerging technologies, as you know. We have artificial intelligence, we have quantum, we have drones, virtual reality. And the beauty about those is you can start modifying them and putting them like Legos and keep creating amazing waves of capability. And there is a lot of examples we can start looking into that. Another aspect is the collective learning. So when we talk about technology, it's no longer like humans. If I read the book, for example, I'm the only person reading and understanding the book. But when you talk about technology, it's called collective learning. We have 1 million cars in the streets. Whatever a single car is learning, all the cars, 1 million cars could learn it at the same time. So that exponential speed of learning, I think it's inspiring a faster evolution of advances compared to what we've been thinking about. But also we're thinking about how does it affect the humans' population. So according to the UN, they expect population of the Earth by 2050 to be approximately 10 billion people. I personally think it's going to be much more than that because that's based on conventional models. It doesn't take into account the technology evolution that we're having and how does it impact extensions of humans' lives. So one of the things, for example, is for the first time in humanity, we're understanding what are the fundamentals that causes humans to age. What are the telomeres? We're understanding how many, when cells split, how many times it can split, how do we keep extending that? What's causing senescent cells, we're causing epigenetic noise, how to get rid of that stuff. So we're understanding the causes, and if we understand the causes, then it's a matter of time. We're going to start slowing aging, and potentially one day even completely stop aging. And we're not talking about science fiction. This is reality. This is publications. This is progress that's being made right now. So we're living really in an incredible era that's going to be very exciting. Artificial intelligence not only can actually create new classes of medicine, so all of us have different genetics composition. So why give the same medications to everybody? So in the future, we'll be having a medication or a medicine that's actually going to be 100% applicable to genetic composition, so it's 100% effective for you. And also, artificial intelligence can do predictive analytics and tell you you're going to have a disease before you even have a disease. So we're talking about taking it to a whole different level. 3D printed organs with stem cells from your body, from your genetic composition. There's no longer weights. You can, unfortunately, if you have an issue, you can go and print 3D organs based exactly on your genetics. And then we're starting to dive into nanobots, which is going to be very, very small robotics that can go in your blood and being able to clean up cells, help with augment the immunity system and create life extension. So between all these elements, we believe the world population is much, much higher than what's being predicted at the same time. At the same time, everything is moving so fast that our academic institutions need to also be going, that curriculum need to adapt much faster. So if we go to a technical degree, 5-year degree, by the time you graduate, there has been so many changes that we might not be even ready to go to the industry because things have moved so fast. So how do we start building these bridges between academic institutions and industry to make sure that our graduates are finishing university and having the latest skills and tools to be able to be effective from day one in the industry? So we talked about that artificial intelligence is going to be ubiquitous, is going to be impacting every single job, and potentially is going to help us hand in hand. It's going to make engineers more effective. It's going to make doctors more effective. It's going to make everybody do a better job. But once we reach super artificial intelligence, there is a potential of some of these jobs being completely impacted and disrupted. So no matter what, every technology creates jobs and displaces jobs. And I think for the first time, artificial intelligence eventually will start displacing more jobs than creating jobs. So we have less jobs, essentially, and we have an incredible population increase, especially with the aging population. So what does that mean? That means the current economic model is not sustainable. It's not sustainable at all. So we need to start thinking as a community, what is the new economic models? How do we need to start thinking about it from today, before it's too late, before it's actually we get to the point? We need to start brainstorming, forming think tanks, and start thinking about what is the new future going to look like. Also, there is starting to have a lot of discrepancy between productivity and compensation. So until the 70s, it almost went in a straight line. Productivity and compensation used to be straight. After the 70s, started deviating, and now it's deviating substantially. So the productivity that somebody used to do in a month, pretty soon will be able to do in an hour. So imagine how much more productive you're becoming, but then compensation as well is not catching up with that. So we need to even look at the basic fundamental things that we're talking about. Now, industries, they're no longer working in silos. I mean, any technology that we're working on, it doesn't apply to an industry. The lines are blurring now between several industries. Any technology applies to every single thing. And just to give you an example, look at 3D printing, which was just a technology to print components, to print bolts. Look what it can do now. It can print rocket engines. It can print houses in 2 to 3 days at a fraction of the price. It can do jet engines and the blades. It can do actually clothing in three-dimensional. That's amazing. It can do organs, like we mentioned, print your organ according to your stem cells, according to your genetic composition. And then food. You can, for example, going home, on the way, you can instruct your 3D printer to print you pizza. By the time you get home, everything is ready. So one technology actually became transversal across the whole sector. And then, just to give you an example, quick example about ecosystems. So driverless cars is one technology, but that single technology has so much advantages and disadvantages, and the same thing with all the emerging technologies that we have here as well. So driverless cars, we don't have to have as many cars nowadays, because instead of having 2 to 3 cars per household, like for example in the US, you only need 1 car, and potentially only a small fleet for the whole neighborhood. So a lot of studies have done, especially one from Harvard University, that tells you that humans in the United States, they spend 40,000 hours driving cars. So we're talking about 40,000 hours of wasted complete productivity. So imagine now if we are having driverless cars, you can actually be working while you're being transported from one place to another. That's going to be very helpful. We're talking about less pollution. We're talking about less accidents or 0 accidents eventually. But at the same time, what does driverless cars mean also? That means we're not going to have as many cars, so car manufacturers are not going to be able to produce more cars. Insurance companies, if I have a car that never get into an accident, it's never going to be stolen. I'm always controlling it. So does it make sense to keep investing heavily in insuring this car? Do we need to have hybrid insurance models? So there is a lot of advantages. Even from humans, cognitive ability, there is some studies that tells you that after a certain age, if you start driving, your cognitive ability goes down substantially. Because when you're driving, you're always constantly, it's an exercise, mental exercise. When you don't do that, it's going to affect your ability as a human as well. Our intuition about the future is linear. We were talking about that earlier. We as humans evolved to think linearly. We were hunters. We were farmers. Things move very, very slow at a very small scale. Today, it's a different story. Everything is moving so exponential. Everything is moving so fast. Unless we start rewiring the way we think, I think we're not going to be able to be relevant in the fast evolution of everything else. So we need to shift from having linear thinking to having an exponential thinking aspect of it. And then again, the skills that made us successful today doesn't mean it's the same skills and knowledge that's going to make us successful in the future. It's things that also be evolving so much. We cannot just say, okay, we were successful, we were the best. That doesn't mean absolutely anything. In 2 to 3 years, something else can come and disrupt your industry substantially. So always keep thinking forward. The word proactive versus reactive. If you are reactive in this environment, it's going to be very challenging, very, very challenging. You need to be proactive. Otherwise, it's going to be an issue. And that brings us to the ecosystem. So people look at forest, and they think it's just individual trees. Actually, a forest is an organism, is a single organism. There is microfungus actually grows underneath the soil, and these trees communicate with each other. If there's an infestation, they can actually warn each other. They can transmit and interchange nutrition between them. So it's the same thing as us, as industries, as communities, as everything else. We need to work as academic institutions, with industries, with government institutions, with nonprofit organizations, all of us, because everything is going to be challenging from now on. So an interesting thing from space, when astronauts go to space, they no longer see borders. They don't see countries. They see a planet. And it's the same thing with us, actually. We cannot be siloed in our organization. We have to pull ourselves up, see what's happening geopolitically, see what's happening with technology, see what's happening with economy, and then see what's happening transversally at the different sectors, and then learn from all that stuff, and then go back to your industry, right? And then by then, you'll have much better capability to come up with much better strategic directions to guide your company in the right place. So imagine how many people we have here. We have people from so many sectors, from medical, from IT, from transportation, from finance, from government. Imagine the talent that we have. Imagine the incredible possibilities. We have so many challenges. Together, we're not going to be able to solve any of these challenges that we're having as humans. So imagine if we put our collective intellect together and start working toward the common goal. I think the possibilities will be endless. Thank you very much. Yeah.